So we've got an interesting topic this morning. Good morning to everybody. This is 360 Performance. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, also known as Coach, bringing insights and interest about performance to you every Friday at 11 a.m. So,
turn down number 1, go to number 2.
Okay. All the way down, Henry?
All the way off.
Okay. All right, we are technologically in sync now. Not the band, just me. Glad to be with you today. 360 Performance every Friday, 11 o'clock, Mountain Standard Time. Got a great topic today. We're going to deal with investigating why people do certain things, performance issues, trying to give you a look at what is effective and efficient, starting with the way you think, going into how you behave, and the actions you take to hopefully deliver optimal behavior, optimal performance, and the outcomes that you prescribe for you. So good morning again. Let's start off with our Mindset Monday and our Mindset Moment. Every Monday we put out a Mindset Moment, and this Monday and this entire week, as for those of you who are seeing this over my shoulder, I've got my Mindset Moment showcased in a stadium look, because we're going to be talking about stadiums today, but we're also going to be talking about successful behaviors. And Lou Holtz has given us this quote: you aren't going to find anybody that's going to be successful without making a sacrifice and without perseverance. You can't be successful if you don't sacrifice and you're not persevering. You've got to push through things. You've got to know what's in front of you as soon as possible so that you can adapt and adjust to whatever's coming at you. Now, I like Lou Holtz's quote, even though there are times when I've shared this quote with others, they've asked me, I don't exactly know what that means. So I just break out those key words, as I'm going to do for you. If you're going to be successful, you're going to get challenged. And with those challenges, you're going to have to make some sacrifices and persevere. Because without that, you're not going to be successful. Without perseverance, without understanding that you're going to be challenged and you're going to be facing sacrifices, it's going to be tough to get to the outcomes that you desire for yourself. It's going to be tough to define how you're going to practice in anticipation to those people and things that might get in your way. So that's our Mindset Moment for the week. Gratitude and thanks to Lou Holtz and his wisdom as a coach. When you see our Mindset Moment posts on social media, whether it's our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, and others, take a look at the QR code we're putting there. Today, the QR code will bring you right back here to KUHS Denver television and radio. We're streaming to you every week, every day. Some great bits of music and entertainment, like the great shows that we showcase every week. So take a look at that QR code, zip into that, and take advantage of the great things that we offer to you here at KUHS. Now, as I say that, I want to be mindful of sharing with you some insights about just what to be aware of. There are some very interesting things going on in our world. Our theme today is one of those interesting things that are going on, and it's the behavior of fans in fairly large arenas, sporting events, entertainment events. Gosh, I hope it doesn't get into Broadway and drama and theater, because if it does, we've really lost our way. But there have been incidences right here in Denver, for example, that a world-class soccer player at a major event, major soccer event, international soccer event, was hit in the head with a bottle to the point he had to be almost literally carried out of the arena because it created an injury for him. Or you've got the verbal banter between Chris Paul and a fan at an NBA game, and then being doused with popcorn as he exits the arena. These are becoming more and more frequent occurrences, and not just by individuals, by sometimes groups of people. In that same soccer event, that soccer player, that world-class soccer player was hit with a bottle, there were chants and statements made by fans regarding orientation, sexual orientation. This is not right. This is a behavior that's unacceptable. It's an antisocial kind of behavior that we seem to be turning an eye to. And when I say we, I'm talking about stadium security, stadium management, the teams that are in those stadiums. Now, I'll back away from that by saying that our theme today is going to recognize the great and wonderful steps of courage that professional teams are taking. That players like a Chris Paul, a LeBron James, and any number of other athletes in other sports are taking in support of those in the profession of professional sports to show their solidarity and support for them. This is not to the level of what we're talking about today about fan rage towards athletes, but it's also about safety and security, which is also part of the theme for today, where a stadium is not aware of what they need to do to protect the athletes that are delivering skill and entertainment in that venue. Naomi Osaka, for example. Naomi came totally exposed to her struggles with emotional balance in her life, being mentally conditioned to be able to deal with the pressures and stressors that are part of the world of world-class tennis, the part of the world of all kinds of professional sports. But she, in a moment during the French Open, she succumbed to it because the trigger was the press. That stadium needed to protect her. That agency that runs the French Open needs to be able to they need to be aware of the athletes like Naomi that have these issues, these triggers that put them into unsafe places in their mind as well as in their physical presence. Naomi needed that support. I'll go as far as to say she may have also needed the support of her own team, her own group who's really close to her. They know her. And they didn't necessarily make any steps, at least not to the public eye. They may have behind the scenes, they may have been there nurturing her, supporting her, and I'm hoping that they were. But they may have some other things to learn about and to be more mindful in how they listen to and then respond to Naomi's needs. Because I am not going to automatically categorize her as mentally ill. That's not fair. I don't know her that well. But the facts are that she was emotionally stressed and was dealing with the pressures of that from whatever the triggers were. In some cases, she's admitted the triggers were the press. There may have been other triggers that were along with that. But in knowing those facts, I wouldn't quickly go to her being mentally ill. She's dealing with emotional issues. That needs to be dealt with. The facilities and the systems that support those events, those major tennis events, need to be aware of those nuances and those differences amongst athletes so that they can adjust and adapt their systems to accommodate them and hopefully diminish, if not eliminate, the pressures that come with that experience. Well, I've got Huggy Bear on my theme today. He's got a great expression there, and I believe that if fans are continued to allow to be belligerent and verbally abusive, and then extending it to physical abuse towards athletes like Josh, they'll handle the fans if somebody else doesn't. So the quote is, manage the fans or he will. And the fan, I call it rage. That's more for just getting your attention, but I'm hoping it isn't rage of the fans. But that's our theme today. We're going to talk about the stadium responsibility, security issues, and systems that major stadiums like Broncos Stadium and at the Rockies or the Avalanche, any place where you go to get entertained and watch a sport you love. For example, for me, sitting at home as a means to avoid the potential for conflict or violence is not a choice for me when it comes to baseball. I enjoy baseball the most by going to the field, going to the stadium. I love being there. I love Coors Field and Rockies baseball because there's some great food there. There's a bowl burrito that I love to get at one of the concession stands. I like to get as expensive as it might be, I like to get a draft beer as well. It's the environment. It makes the experience that much better. And then I love being close enough to watch the pitchers and the hitters and the fielders and the players get ready as they come to the on deck circle, getting ready to get up to the plate and hit. That's all there. Whereas television, it's just a little bit too passive for me. Now, other sports, I'll watch basketball on TV at any level, especially college. I love college basketball. But I won't necessarily differentiate between the arena versus watching on television. Either one is good for me. Baseball's the only exception for me. But with that being said, some people don't have a choice. The television is not a place for them to go, but at the same time, economically, they may not have the means to get a ticket. But when they do, they don't deserve to be threatened or have the potential of being threatened. So I have to ask the question in today's theme, what are you doing? What are the answers that you're putting out there? What are the systems you're putting in place? What are maybe you structurally changing to enhance the security, to limit those who may still get through the checkpoints that would create a situation that would not be pleasant for anybody to experience. Now, as I say that, I want to, as we try to do every show, open up the show with a little gratitude. I am very grateful that I have the choices to be able to go and see wonderful events, really great events. Denver is a wonderful town to participate in everything from ballet to baseball. Some really great world-class venues here. Or being able to go into theatrical mode and go to a Denver film location and watch really great artists and producers and directors create new works, or go to a park and listen to the open air feeling of music. We've got a great town here and a great picture of things. Like, in fact, next Friday and Saturday, Denver has one of the largest celebrations of Juneteenth of any city in the country that celebrates and recognizes Juneteenth. So we'll be giving you more details about that as it starts to come up for next week. But that's the 18th and 19th of June next week. The Juneteenth celebrations are quite the well-attended event in the Denver metro area. So take advantage of that. But my point is that we've got a rich cultural influence of entertainment through sports entertainments that I don't want to see it get diminished because of a few people who draw a lot of attention because of their actions. They're disrespectful and violent acts that should be checked. And because they're not that many people doing it, the systems that these stadiums have in place with proper training and development should be able to, or must be able to, check it down, make sure it's taken care of. So I'm grateful for those opportunities. I love being here in Denver. So one of the questions I ask myself about this topic is to understand the mindset, the emotional place that these malcontents come from, to throw a bottle, dump a bucket of popcorn, spit, throw a beer, whatever it is that they, in the moment, decide to do. Where do they feel like they have the privilege to do that? Is it because they bought a ticket? Is it because they're just present and the mood strikes them that they feel they can go ahead and behave in that way? I guess I pose that question for anybody out there listening. And if you have a response, share it with me. Go to my website, 360mindset.com, and share a comment with me. Go to our webpage. Sorry, I just told you that. Go to our Facebook page at 360 Mindset and share a comment with us and let us know what's going on. It would be very helpful for me to get even more perspective on what's going on. But then when you think about the ticket holder and their privileges, many of us don't tend to read the ticket. You can read the ticket. There's policy statements right on the ticket about what you're entitled to by purchasing that ticket. It's also very clear the consequences if you violate what privileges you're offered through that ticket purchase. I'm not so sure that the stadiums are actually in a preventative mode. They seem to be more, based on the recent experiences across the country and some right here in Denver, they're more in a reactive mode. And they don't take action until something happens, till the bottle is thrown. The bucket of popcorn's been tipped over. Now, look, I understand. You can't predict or anticipate everything that might happen, but there are certain conditions and structural setups in any large arena that the facilities people, facilities managers know through their experience as well as their training how to guide people. That's why they have those little stanchions with the little ropes on them to guide you through to the right places to go. That's why they have security guards and security services to stand next to those, marked out areas, so that if anybody wants to, they feel like they're being fenced in. Don't fence me in. I'm independent. This is America. Have you heard that? I have freedoms. Well, yes, you do. But if this is private property in my space, and you bought a ticket to enter in here, you're gonna, excuse me, you're gonna honor my rules and do what I'm asking you to do because you agreed to it in the purchase of that ticket. So there are standards. There are things you have to be aware of. So the next thing for me, after you are the fan, be responsible for yourself, is what's the role of the stadium? What do they do in managing the situation? Are there enough leaders that are effective in their methods and their training to make the right choices, to anticipate, even predict what might be happening by watching the movement of people in the crowds, monitoring the stands? I mean, in a fun way, every stadium I've ever been in, they've got cameras that capture people in the stands and what they're doing, and they have the kissing cam. They make it fun, they interactive, so that between possessions or timeout or halftime, whatever the case may be, there's some interaction that you see on the big jumbotron screens. I am sure that can be used in anticipate the behavior of people that is not so pleasant, that's not so negative, or that is negative, that's not so positive. They can do the same thing with those same devices. I'm wondering if they are. Well, I looked up some statistics about security and the leadership that's necessary, and I came up with these questions about where is the truth from one facility to the next. Is there a dotted line of standard devices and systems that every major stadium, professional sports stadium, professional entertainment venue, they all agree, hey, look, for us to do a good job, the dotted line to get that done is here. And everybody complies with that. I asked that question. I ask another question. Is the truth that of these standards different than honestly responding in a way that's going to deliver the results as we address the differences that we know are present in every crowd that comes through the doors? We know there's differences in the personality. We know there's different energies of a fan about their team. You have the opposing side. So then one fan might have an energy and an attitude towards another fan. So if they see them wearing a jersey and they're getting a beverage or some food, some hopefully harmless comments might be said about, well, so and so isn't as great a player as you think they are, and we're gonna overcome that, and we're gonna beat you because despite of his talent. So there's this friendly competitive banter that goes around, right? Well, are we monitoring that both as fans that are there so that we truly know and have a good feeling about the safety of this public place? What are the guidelines I should be looking for So as I walk in as a fan, I should be able to see certain things that indicate that this is a safe place. That challenges people when they come in about their beliefs of this space. You know, you need to respect what the signs say. You need to honor the guiding ropes and pylons and all the things that are there, so that your behavior accommodates and changes to address what the stadium is asking you to do, so that you are fully and continuously compliant in how you check things down. You know, that's why in the concession stand there's a certain lane that you go in to enter, and there's a certain lane to exit, so that they can manage the flow of people. You know as well as I do, on a great day, on a great game, like I'm hoping when the Nuggets come back, they're going to get a win for us, but I'm sure there's going to be fans there that are going to want to really get excited, really encourage their team and cheer them forward, and hopefully in a friendly, competitive way, not an antagonistic or violent way. But in that regard, whatever the safety systems that are there, be aware of what they are in that public space. When you go get your beverage, when you even just come in initially and go get your seat, you know, honoring what's there and listening and watching what people are asking you to do. As most of us know, if you've ever been to a large venue, security people wear different clothes. Maybe it's a sport jacket. Usually at an NBA game or an indoor arena, the security people have a jacket and a nice button-down shirt, maybe even a tie. They've relaxed that in some regards. Maybe some of the ushers that do the helping you to your seat will wear polo shirts, where the upper level security down near the floor are wearing different kinds of clothes. But in either case, they're easily recognized. You should be able to identify very quickly who that is, so that Josh Huggy Bear Copeland isn't going to come after you because he's got to manage the fans, because the system and the stadium is not. But there's rules and guidelines that no matter what level of systems a stadium has, there are standards that have been created. When applied, we know they work. We know they help all fans have a great experience in this venue. My biggest question is, are the stadiums actually complying with and applying those standards to their facilities? Now, before we even get to sharing some of those standards, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. The fan is important, both from entertain them, show them a great competitive event, and encourage them to come back because the experience was very, very positive. And then there's the stadium security administration that is constantly on the watch for fans. Well, and maybe not just fans. It could be anybody in the arena that could cause a threat to those who are there just to enjoy the sport and the game. So as I thought about that, I was wondering if in our minds as fans and as the stadium people, we were thinking about the words that help us trigger ourselves into behaving in a proper way. Safety is the first word, you know, and being safe doesn't guarantee, but it sure pushes us towards having fun. Fun that we deserve because we bought a ticket. We paid the money to go see the event so that we could have fun within a structure that allows me to continue with that feeling that I'm safe. So one of those things that helps me feel safe is I see the security people. I get a sense of how many are there. I get a feeling for what kind of people are they, by what they say to me when I'm looking for my seat, or maybe I'm in the wrong section and I need to be directed to a different section. They're cordial, they're friendly, they show a smile, they look in my eyes. All of these things are training elements, learning objectives in a training process, and are mature in their intent. They're not belittling me, they're not being antagonistic to me, they're not presuming just because I'm a fan, that those experiences that other arenas have had, that I might be a fan who's going to do something violent or strange. No, they look at all fans because they bought a ticket, they're entitled to be there, and they have privileges based on the price of that ticket. Where it gets a little dicey is, at what point does a fan turn to the dark side? The uncertainty around which one is it. So the other thing I look for during the game is watching security people and seeing how vigilant they are of the stands. A security person, even a ticket usher, should not be watching the game very much. I know that I've been in situations where I've ran events. I wasn't the security, I hired security. I ran the events. I was there as a performance consultant to monitor performance. And one of those monitoring pieces that I do is watching administrative folks, both in the security as well as general management administration, that they are paying attention to those they serve. That's the fan. That's the entertainer or the athlete. They're watching them, not their performance. They're not there to be entertained. They're working. You, the fan, are there to be entertained. You, the fan, need to feel like you're safe. Now, in addition to the fan, there's also the team. Look, in basketball, which is one of my favorite sports, I played basketball in college. I also love baseball, and I played baseball for a very brief time in college before I made a choice. We're pretty close, right? Dugouts are close to the fans. The bench for the basketball games are really close to fans. In fact, at the pro level, fans spend extra money to be even closer to the bench. And I'm sure over time, if you go to any of the NBA franchises, they can share stories about even those people who spend that large amounts of money have been unruly and have said things or done things, have reached out and touched people. Heck, even the Pope was touched by one of his, and I think it was in 2010, the Pope, I don't think it's the same Pope we have now, but, or maybe it was, Pope Francis, was parishioner reached out and grabbed him, and he slapped her hand. And that's a small example of what I'm wondering, that we should see that. And then the response of the security team to move the Pope away from that. So you get a feeling of safety, that you know that this arena does the right things. And in addition to doing the right things from a safety standpoint and the systems necessary to support that, they honor the game. They honor the contest. They honor the performance of those delivering the entertainment. That is important stuff. Now, as I say that, remember that at 360 Performance, we talk about mindset, we talk about skills, which is our 5 senses. So I'm wondering, where is the fan's role in identifying, not that you should pay attention to why you're there. You bought a ticket to watch the game or the entertaining piece of the performance. But when you see something, maybe just by happenstance, you saw something, a behavior, or heard something, those are 2 of your 5 senses, what should you do? Should you do anything? Like in airports, for example, airport security, constantly announcing, if you see a bag with nobody around it and it's been there for a while and nobody's picked it up, call somebody. Make a difference. Speak up. Right? Should we do that at a sporting event? And if we did, how do we know who to go to? Well, maybe it's the person in the polo shirt or the blazer. Person with that lanyard with the hard card around their neck. Maybe that's the person. I think you have alternatives to give you continued comfort in what's going on. But fans, be aware. And I would say this to you regardless of the condition of what's going on in professional sports and the behaviors, the bad behaviors of a small few, but they draw a lot of attention and they can create some damage. Like at that soccer match, a player had to leave because of an injury, a head injury. let's make sure that we're thinking about our role and our awareness to the environment we're in. One of those areas of awareness I want to bring to your attention, and many of you may already know this, we've got the All-Star game coming to Denver. The security of that game, it will be the bottom line, will be the standard that's at every Rockies game. But because Major League Baseball is going to be there, officials of Major League Baseball will be there, the commissioner will be there, alumni, non-active alumni, MLB players will be in the arena. There are events going from July 9th to July 13th, which is the day of the game, the All-Star game. On the 12th, it's the Home Run Derby. Sunday the 11th is the kind of a star-studded softball game, which is open to the public. More details to come in more specific terms as we go along. But I have more than a casual interest in the safety of that game. And not just because I'm going to be hanging around some of the events, but because I've got people that I care about that are going to be at that game. And some people I don't know, I still care about them. Kids. As a member of the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Colorado, there's going to be kids there that deserve to have a great experience interacting with Major League Baseball players, interacting with their family and friends. And one of those other concerns I have is about the support that organizations bring to those events. The All-Star Game is a way for organizations like the Players Alliance to showcase what they do in the community. Every one of the 30-plus communities served by a professional baseball team franchise has opened their doors to the Players Alliance, which is a Major League Baseball foundation headed up by their leader, the president, Curtis Granderson, of that organization, and his roster of both current and active and unactive players in support of their community service, as well as to their philanthropy in mentoring kids, mentoring their community leaders to help those kids, and then also contributing equipment and time to help kids understand the game of baseball, America's game of baseball. And in doing so, they're going to be part of this event when it comes to Denver. They're going to be out in the neighborhood from Saturday through to Tuesday, sharing their message, mentoring kids through the Boys and Girls Club. It's going to be a great time, but I'm concerned for their safety. I want to make sure that everybody understands that KUHS Field is a large facility. It has lots of little places that shadows are cast and people can hide in. And I don't mean to go too negative here, but you need to be aware of being aware so that you can be, as a fan, a support to organizations like Players Alliance, the Colorado Rockies as an organization and the host of this year's 2021 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. It's going to be a great time. And it should be a great time. And the more we talk about what our expectations are for those who are going to attend, and the care and concern we have for those people, friends, and loved ones that will be there as well, maybe that will overshadow and reduce, if not diminish, any negative behavior in anybody who feels emboldened by past events to be negative and hurtful at the All-Star Game. I think we can take charge of that and make sure that our mental condition in that environmental space is one of very high positive expectations, honoring the good works of the All-Star players that were nominated and voted in to this year's AL, American League and National League teams, along with all the celebrations that are going to go on around the game, including the Home Run Derby. Now, that's an elongated way of me both promoting and advertising the All-Star Game, but I think it's a great example, a real-time example for us in this city, in this state, to represent what the future should look like so that we do our part in educating, perhaps even training others about the behavior and the responsibilities you have to make space safe. Fans in the stands, be aware. Enjoy the game, enjoy the contest, enjoy the entertainment, but do it with an understanding that you want to be aware of your space and bring to the attention anybody that's not allowing everybody to enjoy the space in the same way. So before I continue on with the rest of the show and our theme today, I want to remind you that you're listening to 360 Performance on KUHS Denver. We're streaming to you every Friday at 11 a.m. I've learned some stuff today. My wonderful mentor, Henry Archuleta, shared some stuff with me that will help hopefully improve our message to you so that you are able to be more interactive with our show on a weekly basis, every week on Fridays. So we'll get that going so that you can take advantage of the interactive nature of Facebook and 360 Mindset on Facebook page, along with KUHS Denver Radio and Television. So that's my my little plug for what we're going to be doing for the future. I also should tell you that not this Friday, next Friday, sorry, but the 25th, we're going to have Tracy McCubbin. She's going to be with us. She is one of the country's, if not the world's leaders on cleaning the clutter, decluttering any space, whatever space you might have that's feeling a little bit claustrophobic or too much stuff, having trouble controlling it, managing it, getting rid of it perhaps. Tracy will be on the show talking about that. I will be asking her to stretch her paradigm and help me with insights on managing a locker in a locker room. I've got more than my fair share of athletes that are just, I'm just going to say it, they're slobs. They just are. And their locker is a place that they are at sometimes more often than their own bedroom, their own kitchen. And there's a lot of stuff in that locker that represents the kitchen and their bedroom that needs to be cleaned up, declutterized. So we're going to have Tracy McCubbin on. We'll give you more details. Stay tuned with next week's social media blast in preparation for the 25th. On the 18th, next Friday, a week from this Friday, we're waiting for confirmation that Curtis Granderson, the president of Players Alliance and an alumni of the Major League Baseball, his last team he was with in the MLB was the Marlins, but he has had a wonderful, wonderful career in baseball as an active player. But now as an alum, he has even more of an active role as a leader and a mentor for young people who want to just enjoy the game of baseball. So hopefully we'll get a confirmation of that. We'll let you know early next week about Curtis being on the show on the 18th. And then he will be in town in July for the All-Star game. So there's our shameless plugs for what we're doing going forward. And as I do that, gosh, excuse me, stuck right there, just can't quite get it loose. We're going to continue to talk about our theme today, which is the stadium safety and making sure that that space is a space for fun and that leaders have a responsibility to manage that space. They need to watch the fans and not the event in order to anticipate, perhaps even predict, when something and someone will bubble up and create a situation that could distract people from having fun and continuing having fun. So what are the traits that leaders should have and be paying attention to as it relates to the safety of environments? Well, there's an integrity of the environment. There should be certain things. I mentioned some of them earlier. You know, there's the little guide ropes that identify what path to take. There's going to be signage. There's going to be people dressed a certain way that you should probably pay attention to. And that represents integrity. But even with that set of physical things and people, listen to this. The Summer Olympics, which were delayed, are now going to happen very shortly in Japan. But before that actually happens, over the last few months, surveys have been taken, and as recently as 2 months ago, when the Japanese citizenry were surveyed, 83% of them did not want to have the Olympics happening in Japan, in Tokyo. And guess what? Not because of violent fans or unruly fans. There's other ways that an event and an environment can be unsafe. And their rationale was they were concerned about COVID. Being distracted by what is not happening in those environments. Proper testing, guidelines for wear a mask, not wear a mask. We've talked about that on this show as well. Well, I have been keeping in touch with a lot of different teams that are going to be athletes are going to be on teams that are going to the Olympics. I've also talked to people that I've known that have been part of an Olympic committee, not necessarily the Tokyo one, but there are standards and guidelines. One of those for the Olympic Committee is that metal detectors are everywhere. They've amped up security from the physical standpoint, those visual prompts that you can certainly identify. Well, with the Olympics, you're going to see security that are carrying devices and are dressed in a way that protect them. They're going to be wearing flak jackets. They're going to be wearing tasers. In some cases, higher up, they'll be both wearing tasers and weaponry. It's not going to be everywhere, and in some cases, unless you're just hyper aware, hyper sensitive, you're not going to see it. They'll be out on the edges and the periphery. But the communication devices and systems that the Olympic Committee mandates for any Olympic venue have been very, very high ever since the athletes that were many, many years ago, back in the 70s, were taken captive. That's when security issues with the Olympics amped up. Atlanta and the bombing, other changes were made. So they are constantly aware of the systems. They are really open-minded. Now, as I say that, understand this. In the United States, not an Olympic event, just a professional sporting event, metal detectors are not necessarily mandatory. Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, not every stadium is mandated to have metal detectors in there. And I don't have a real strong personal opinion myself about metal detectors as a device that you get scanned as you come in. But I believe that whatever the system is you have in place takes advantage of what is needed. If you are in a community that there may, because of the statistics, records show violence by gunfire, violence by small arms is high, then you might want to have a metal detector there. If injury by knifing is high, and your facility happens to be close to those communities, you might want to have metal detectors. But that's still your choice as an owner. It's your property, it's your franchise. Now, I may choose not to go there if you don't, and I have access to those same facts and figures. But these are just things about systems, about preparedness, about being open-minded enough to be able to put your security systems in a place to predict, if not minimally anticipate, negatives, because you've got systems in place. Now, as security systems go, there are 5 basic requirements that will, if put in place, will optimize, keep your mind open to systems that will provide really, really good security processes in your stadium. And here are the 5. And they emphasize self-awareness, that you are empathetic, you're listening, you're a ticket taker, you're listening to the people's questions of you, you're a security guard, because at a higher level, because you've got a taser and a gun strapped on your hip. But you still need to be empathetic. Just because you've got the gun and the taser on your hip doesn't mean you should pull it out in any moment. Use your brain, use your voice, ask questions, use your eyes, see things, hear things. Be empathetic. And have the courage to go into training so that you can be grateful for these insights, like you got training. Security staff goes through training. And I know for a fact in our arenas here at the Pepsi Center, or it's the arena for the Broncos or the Nuggets, those security staffs go through training, many of whom are ex-military and or or maybe in some cases it's a side gig, so they are still on the police force, but they've got good training. My question, my concern is that the stadium is maintaining a certain set of standards that are reinforced by what you know about your community, what you know about what's going on in your community, so that you can have advanced security equipment in place to address those differences, like metal detectors, like maybe facial recognition systems. And I know, look, I watch 60 Minutes, I keep up on technology. It's not an absolute system. It has its nuances. It has its ethnic differences that are somewhat prejudicial. Make sure you've got advanced security equipment, not just the run-of-the-mill stuff, so you can say, I've got it, and put people off, make them feel like you're okay. Have advanced security equipment. And that you're practicing a zoning of operations, that you've got pockets in your stadium because of the construction you know are more problematic than another, and that you educate and train your security staff and your support people to know about these things so that they're aware, and that you put signage up and you cordon things off so that fans are deterred, not absolute, they're deterred to not go into those areas. Now, regretfully, we've got security systems have to have contingency plans in the event that there is an evacuation, and that the protocols have been refined for your building and for varying situations that require evacuation. It could be a weather emergency. In some parts of a country, tornadoes, hurricanes in other parts of the country. In some cases, just flat out bad weather. And that we, meaning the stadiums, have protocols that are refined to address the differences in those evacuation skills. And that your systems, those advanced security systems, can reverse, flip-flop over and reverse the flow out so that you're making sure you're taking care of. Children aren't lost in the movement of an evacuation. It can get kind of hectic. Managing those hectic moments, managing those incidences, like what happened at Broncos Stadium with that soccer game, when that soccer player was hit with a bottle. They quickly got a hold of that fan. But the issue for me is, did they have data that they could analyze to report it out to the security people to anticipate that character? That person was doing something. He was animated in some way, perhaps. He had to get down close enough so his wonderful arm throwing skills could launch the bottle. So he had to be close enough. There were more than likely signs so that you could leverage your ability to predict and at least anticipate adjusting your security staff to be in a place to take care of that person. Lots of different steps, those 5 steps. Training, advanced security equipment, making sure your people know about the zones, make sure fans know where to stay away from, make it clear and precise. And that when there is an event that requires people to leave the building, that you have a protocol to make that happen, so that their safety in that effort is maximized. It's one thing to be safe sitting in a chair at a stadium without a lot of movement, without the threat of an event, a weather event, a violent event. As a teacher, in my experience as a teacher, is we would practice weather events. We would practice if there was a shooter in the area. Thankfully, in my tenure as an educator, that never was a reality, thankfully enough. And then lastly, that you've got reporting processes to monitor how things go. What happened at the checkpoints as they came in? Did we have any incidences? Do we need to refine anything? It's not a matter of just catching incidences that might happen with the data that you use, but use the data to improve. Have the courage and the empathy to examine yourself and your teammates to make it happen. I don't know that this is being done. Here's my pessimism coming out, my sarcasm as well. I don't know that it's coming out. I don't know that we're asking the right questions. A quote from Edward Deming, one of my favorite authors, about quality and quality performance. If you don't know how to ask the right questions, you discover nothing. And the data related to stadiums and the security systems, the data they should be able to get, is a great source of where to ask good questions, the right questions, so that you can discover everything. That's important. I don't know that it's happening. I don't know that it's happening consistently. I know I've got my favorite stadiums I like to go to across the country to watch baseball, but I can tell you this, there are major differences from one stadium to the next. And I don't have enough data because I'm not entitled to it. I'm a ticket buyer. And in some cases I get some privileges with passes and things like that. But even that doesn't get me to the inner workings of what's going on in those stadiums. Nor should I know. But I should feel safe. I should see certain things to be able to ask the right questions so I discover everything about that environment so I feel safe. I feel like I can truly kick back, have my burrito bowl, have my beverage, and enjoy the entertainment of a skill of sport or the entertainment on the stage. Now, as I say that, I want to make sure that the actions that people take match what they say and that are not different. They're not just saying something to push me away, that they really have high integrity and that the degree of their integrity matches what I'm discovering because I'm asking the right questions. I hope I'm getting the right answers and I'm discovering everything I need to discover to continue to feel safe in those environments. And you know, as we've talked before on all different kinds of issues, and today's it's about safety when you go to a stadium, go to a theatrical presentation, you go to a music event like a concert. That when my end in mind is I want to be entertained. I want to be safely entertained in that space. That's my end in mind. And I want to be grateful to that organization that the ticket I bought with the clearly defined privileges that are outlined on the back of that ticket. Most of us don't read it. I don't. But I do know about them. I've read them at one point in my career. That I have a good, honest feeling of gratitude towards that organization that makes me want to come back. I want to see them play again. I love watching Chris Paul play. 36 years old, the guy's killing it. He's a leader. He purposefully goes into a game in moments when the team needs to be calmed down. It's happening. You see it happen. The announcers even know it now. I want to see that. I want to see that without being threatened by the discourse of a fan dumping a bucket of popcorn on Chris Paul's head. It's not right. It's not right. I want to feel good about it. Just like I feel good about what I do here, I'm grateful to the teamwork and play of my colleagues here at KUHS Denver. Henry Archuleta is a godsend for me. I wish him always the well. And you know, the man is a monster. He's an example of premier human skill and health. How many people do you know that have been hit with the Widowmaker and survive? He's got more compliments from cardiac surgeons about how he survived that than anybody I know. And all you have to do is ask him, because he'll give you story after story after story. And the reason I bring him up is because he's a recording. He's a human podcast. Well, I have a literal podcast. We post these shows every week. I'll be producing over the weekend to post to Spotify, Google, and Apple to listen to our shows here. Catch us on that if you missed our show here, or go on to KUHS Denver and the website there to see our shows. I'm so grateful for all that opportunity that we have to use technology in the best way. As I say that, I'm also asking you to get involved. Be involved in what we do here. Share with us what you feel, how you feel, by going to 360mindset.com. Share a comment with us. Go to KUHS, TV and radio, KUHS.com, and give us your comments so that you can stay in touch with us, make plans to take action on what we may say so that you can be the best of you that you can be. Every week we'll be here with you, showcasing KUHSdenver.com. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, on 360 Performance, every Friday at 11 o'clock right here, giving you the best of what we can be in the moments that you give us. Thanks for having us on a Friday. You're going to be listening to the Jets Make It Real on the musical portion of our show. So have a great day today, people.